What are the disadvantages of choosing not to have children? A lot folks are making jokes or saying absolutely no downside. But the honest truth is care and connection in old age. It's a selfish reason to have kids, sure. But I'd argue having kids is a fully selfish act no matter what. Although I don't think there is anything necessarily wrong with that. Assuming you're a decent parent and you're a part of most prolific world cultures, and a child is someone who can help look after your health finances as you age. At the very least, they can be a social connection as your peers and partners your age start to become distant or pass away. You're changing your point of view about a lot of things in your life because you don't only think for yourself, but for you, and a tiny piece of human you're carrying on your arms the first year of his life. There is no disadvantage of not having children. You can think about advantage or disadvantage, but in my opinion it's the accomplishment of the love between two people who want to bring each other the best gift they can give each other in an entire life. I'm hitting 50 soon and have one stepson. My wife, his mother, is headed down a bad road with her health. The only other family I'm close with is my brother, who's in much worse health than I am, and my mother who's close to hitting 70. My stepson, his wife, and their daughter live close to her family and spend most of their time with them. I was never well enough or financially to have any other children. I have a bad feeling I'm going to outlive everyone in my life, spend my last years alone, then dying alone. Think about it every day, getting older. I'm regretting it. You'll miss out on certain aspects of life, and a lot of things will go unlearned. You won't have certain experiences, or know what it's like to have a bond with your own biological child. Your work will disregard your schedule for the most part. People will always question your choice and push having a child on you. As someone with a kid, this is what I see the most, and it's irritating. If you don't want kids, don't have kids. It isn't for everyone, honestly. Freedom is real for a reason, people. All one that I've seen as someone who's not completely against having kids, but is definitely on a later in life path, is that my friends who had kids earlier are now running in much different circles. They're meeting more people through their kids' activities and schools, which has been a huge shift in the friendship dynamic. Not to mention that it's definitely taking a lot more work to maintain friendships with them since their schedules are significantly more full than mine. I've been witnessing a lot of senior citizen situations where they are alone and losing their mental capacity, and there is no one to guard and guide them. They fall victim to scams and generally bad situations. There's no one to advocate for them. I've personally had to take quite extensive care, not physical, but mostly living arrangements related of my father, who is relatively healthy for his age and relatively sane. Still, you would not believe how much oversight he needs. We talked about having a baby when we first married. I had a really bad miscarriage and we decided not to try again. My husband also has 3 kids from a previous marriage. I love the kids. People will sometimes comment that the love is not the same, and they will never be my children. I've been there for when they are sick or have had a bad day at school. No, I didn't have them. But I'm glad they are in my life, and I get to be there for the big milestones in their lives. Highest highs and lowest lows in my experience. But nothing has come close to the love I have for my kids and the joy they add to my life. Yes, they're challenging, but lots of really incredible things are challenging. You don't get the view if you never make the climb. The view from where I'm standing as a mother is the most beautiful thing I could dream possible. In the words of Andrew McMahon, for all the things my eyes have seen, the best by far is you. I see this all the time in my line of work. Childless person dies. Never set up any kind of will. Never made any arrangements. With no stated next of kin. The body goes to the morgue as unclaimed until all legal next of kin avenues are exhausted. Then non-relatives can step in, if there are any. So if you still choose to remain childless, just make sure you make arrangements for what you want to happen to you and your things when you're gone. Knowing you aren't responsible for keeping another human alive, sleeping in late on your days off, the house staying so clean for days at a time that you start to miss cleaning it, The list is endless. This question, which I've seen numerous times, is so odd to me. There is no disadvantage or advantage. You either want them or you don't. If you don't want them, do them and everyone a favor and be happy childless. If you want them, you better have the desire, resources, love, and ability to make them happy. Well-adjusted people the best way you know how. I have felt, and it's a hard job, but it is by far the most rewarding thing I've ever done. Earlier this week, I watched my grandma pass at 89. She was surrounded by family day and night for 2 weeks leading up to the eventual end. Wandering the hospital in search of vending machines, I saw tons of people in a similar state. Almost no one else ever had family that I saw. I know their stories vary, but I know one thing. When I am on my deathbed, I want to go out like grandma, surrounded by loved ones around the clock to the very end. As someone who has and loves children, I can think of a lot. But for every one of them, someone who doesn't care for or want children will discount and say isn't a disadvantage. The reality is people want different things out of life. I think children add joy to my life. And as a teacher to primary grades, an aunt, and friend to many other people with children, the joy is just different and unrivaled when it's my own child. I think some of the disadvantages are just intangible things. For example, my 17-year-old daughter said to me the other day, "That's why I want to be like you, Mom, you are such a good person." So I wouldn't say there are monetary disadvantages and such, but you just don't get some of the moments parents get. And that's okay, because being puked on in the middle of the night isn't fun either. Just depends on what you want in life. Everyone always gives these monetary or practical responses, but they'll give the one I think is biggest. You miss out on one of the most fundamental and rewarding experiences in life. Having offspring is wonderful. The ups and downs of raising a child into an adult are priceless. It's like watching your own childhood for a different point of view, and you get to correct and try to do better than your parents did to you. Someone mentioned in another thread that you miss out on the insane love you feel for your kids. I kind of get that, because I do really love my cat and it feels pretty wonderful, so I can only imagine how it is to have a baby. That's the one thing that sort of makes me wonder if I have missed out. But at the same time, I don't think I want all of that other daily stuff that goes along with the kids thing. My grandmother told me she had 6 kids, so at least one would be worth a damn. People do get lucky. And I'm one of 60 wife's dead brother and sister school friends alive. The only person that checks on me is my doesn't ring, but from aunt died at 80. She said her only regret was not having can backfire on you. Plenty of shitty kids from primarily shitty parents. You may need to work harder to get a social circle that will be helpful when your body and mind really start to slow down. If you have a big close family and you just decided to not have kids, probably no big deal. But otherwise you'll need to explore some other avenues of keeping up a social life, so that post-retirement at bare minimum someone asks questions and you go radio silent for a few days. People not shutting up about it. I just make the situation extra uncomfortable by mentioning how, due to my history of alcoholism and mental illness, I'm not convinced it's a good idea. Adoption or otherwise, on the whole I'm doing well. But I'm literally unstable, lol. People get real squirmy when you bring up a strong family trend of addiction and suicide as answer to why you don't want to breed. My kids are grown, but my new wife and I are considering adopting war orphans from Ukraine. Children need love and guidance, and I have a need to love, nurture, and mentor. Some people don't have that, that's fine. Disadvantages of not having kids are only apparent to those who've had kids. The rewards are emotional and spiritual. It's not something you can explain. It'll suck when we are old. And I'm not even talking about financial reasons. I know so many people that help their older parents navigate medical insurance or lift something heavy, change a light bulb, have lunch with them, etc. Having medical power of attorney with someone you really trust. Like if you were to develop dementia and no family, it'll be harder to get help. No easy out to dodge social commitments. I need to start a GoFund for one of my friends. His poor child seems riddled with illness, which always comes to a head just hours before we have plans. Thoughts and prayers for little Timmy, who has contracted COVID 3 times, strep twice, and an ear infection every third Friday for the last and only 3 years of his life. Honestly, there are none except when annoying nosy people tell me I'll change my mind all the time. I'm for 1F, and I still get asked when my husband and I are going to have kids. It's infuriating. I have better things to do than procreate. The next time someone stupidly asks me, I'm going to tell them we don't want kids, but we sure do enjoy trying all the time. Haven't really found any yet. Not that I'm looking, but we've been married 32 years SP far. Tried to adopt, but it didn't work, lost about 60-80K. That's when I said enough. After said shit show, we've traveled the world, while our friends stayed at home with their kids. I consider ourselves lucky, and at 60 years old we're ready to retire and really start traveling. Friends with kids tend to drift apart, and it's harder to make friends as an adult without them, especially if you're down, not outdoorsy or disabled. Edit to add, and being the person who kinda gets left holding the bag due to lean staffing whenever someone's kid is sick. I'm not blaming the people with kids, I'm blaming the company. But it is frustrating.